Good evening. I'd like to call tonight's meeting of the Lee County Board of Commissioners to order. We'd like to welcome everybody here. Thank you for being here. It's a nice crowd, new faces. Glad to have everyone. And at this time, I'd like to call on Commissioner Smith to lead our invocation and to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Heavenly Father, we give thanks for this nation. We ask your blessings and guidance for our national and state leaders. We ask for this board to act on behalf of our county in a way that honors you. We give thanks for the many freedoms you provide us, the freedom to worship, to speak freely, the right of free and honest press, the enduring freedom to peaceably assemble, and the freedom to petition our government for a redress of grievances. Help this elected board, as well all those in positions of power and authority, to govern wisely for the common good of all. In the most holy and precious name of your Son, Jesus. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Commissioner Smith. At this time, are there any additions to the agenda?
Madam Chair, on approval of consent agenda, under new business, item A, consideration of appointment of Rebecca Hunter to Lee County Library Board of Trustees. I'd like to recommend that that be moved to the consent agenda.
Okay, item A under new business to consent. Any questions or discussion on that? Okay, any other additional items to the agenda? Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much. Okay, approval of the consent agenda with the addition of the new item.
Madam Chair, move to approve.
Okay, any questions or comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. All right, we'll move into the public comment section. And just to remind folks, we're glad to have a good list for public comments tonight. As you come up to the microphone, if you'll state your name and your address so our clerk can add it to the public record. And you have 3 minutes to speak, and our attorney will be keeping time. And as you get to 3 minutes, she'll say time. And of course, I won't cut you off in mid-sentence, you know, but just be aware of that. So the first person is Jan Hill. Good evening.
Hello. My name is Jan Hill. My address is 2741 Valley Road in Sanford, 27330. I've been a homeschool mother, homeschooling my 5 children in Lee County for the past 20 years. And I currently have 2 students who are enrolled in the College and Career Promise program at CCCC. I have a junior and a senior. I'm here this evening because it is my understanding that the Lee County Promise Scholarship is available only to public high school graduates. I would ask you to review this policy and extend it to include all high school graduates in Lee County who meet the eligibility requirements. Currently, private school and homeschool students are being excluded, and this is unfair and discriminatory. I'm aware of other counties that do extend their promise programs to public school, homeschool, and private school students. Harnett County just approved their program to include all 3 groups. And these students are attending CCCC, which is located in our county, but we're exempt from that promise scholarship that they have access to. Also, Sandhills Community College, Moore and Hope County residents who graduate from public, private, or registered homeschool are eligible for the free tuition at Sandhills. There's also Lenore Community College in Kinston, and a couple of others who do not state any type of an exclusion. They just say high school graduate. In our county, we have 2 private schools. Lee Christian has about 414 students. Grace has about 779. There are 428 homeschools registered in Lee County in the 2017-2018 school year. I would imagine a conservative guess for the number of students enrolled in homeschool in Lee County would be average of 2 per homeschool. There's 3 in mine, and many homeschools have more than the 1 to 2. That would give you about 856 students. So if you combine all of those, there are about 2,000 students in Lee County who are not being served. That's about 16 to 17% of the students in Lee County are being excluded from this scholarship strictly on the basis of where they attend school. I would argue that these are some of our best and brightest students, and it would seem wise to incentivize them to attend our local community college rather than to look elsewhere for their education. This scholarship, if it should be provided for any of our high school graduates, it should be provided for all of our high school graduates who meet the eligibility requirements. It's not fair that we're excluding the private and homeschool families that are helping to fund this scholarship through their tax dollars.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ms. Hill. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Chris Hill? Good evening.
Thank you. Yeah, good evening. And I'm Chris Hill. I'm also at 2741 Valley Road in Sanford, and I'm Jan's husband. But I wanted to bring to you guys, the leaders of our county, my perspective. We've got, like Jan said, we've got these children that we've homeschooled. That was a choice that we made, and it fit our family. It doesn't fit everybody, but it fit us. My wife and I are dedicated to the best education possible out there for our children. That particular solution fitted us well. As a path towards college, we have chosen to include CCCC as that first step in going there. And so we've included that as the best solution for our family as well. So we need the scholarship just like anybody else does, any public schooler does. And so I just want to encourage you guys to understand that we're not a group that needs to be skipped over or hopped over. We want, just like y'all, we want to provide the best leaders in our county. We want to provide students who can add value to our county. And this is a way that my wife and I are planning to raise children who can do that. And this is a part of it. And so we just don't want to be, I'm not a legal lawyer or anything, but it's almost unethical. I'm a taxpayer for Lee County, but my students are not included in this particular program. So I just want to strongly encourage you guys to go back and revise those eligibility requirements and make it fair for everybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Hill. John Hill? Good evening.
Good evening. My name is also John Michael Hill, and I'm also from the 2741 Valley Road address. Those are my parents, Jan and Chris Hill, right there. But I'm going to keep it short. I am a homeschooled high school senior, and I actually just started today my 4th semester at Central Carolina Community College.
Great.
I am currently enrolled in their College and Career Promise program that they have there, and I am going for my associate's in engineering degree. Upon graduation of high school in the spring, I plan to return to community college to finish that degree, and then I will transfer to NC State University, where I plan on majoring in biomedical engineering. I'm completely eligible for the scholarship in all areas except for the fact that I'm not a public school graduate. This scholarship would really benefit me and my family and would definitely help me achieve my goals, and I respectfully encourage y'all to amend this exclusion and include all Lee County graduates. Thank you.
Thank you, John Michael. Mr. Van Gross? Good evening.
Good evening. I'm Van Gross Jr. I live at 915 Gilmore Drive, Sanford, here in town. Before you, I guess there is a rezoning request out on Farrell Road. What I do want you to understand is that what we do, I know a lot of times rezoning comes into, we want to grab more lots and do more development so we can make more money. And we are in the business of developing lots and building houses and trying to make money. But this current land is 30 acres and it's zoned residential agricultural, which would allow 40,000 square foot lots, less, your roads and things. So you're talking about something of the nature of 24 or 5 lots. The thing that we proposed has the same number of lots, but they're configured differently. In doing so, we thought that we could create some situations where we're using up less land, we have less land that's disturbed, we have less soil erosion, we can look at we can create a septic systems for these lots that work better, and that it would be a win-win. But I don't think that it was understood well, and I know it's easier to just leave it alone than to do something. So while I have lots of thoughts of things there, I would encourage you to at least consider the possibility as a planner and the developer, that we are trying to do the right thing, and we're trying to do it in a way that benefits everybody without trying to create a windfall for ourselves by creating something more dense. There are some ways that we can do it. We'll be able to develop the land either way, okay? But I think that the design that we proposed is a better design that works better for that land and works with no more density and creates some situations where, like I said, you do less cutting of land, less cutting of timber, less clearing of lots, less soil erosion. Those are all things that we think would be beneficial. Okay?
Okay, thank you very much. Ms. Kim Capehart? Excuse me, Capehart. Good evening.
Yes, I'm Kim Capehart. I'm 952 Arbor Lane here in Sanford. And I've been a resident, my family and I have been a resident here for 19 years. And I'm going to speak on behalf of the memorandum that y'all are going to have before you tonight in regards to the wording. Again, it's been clearly expressed by my counterparts behind me, but I'm also a board member for the local homeschool support group here in Sanford. And so, in a way, I speak on behalf of them as well. I have 4 kids, of which 2 have already gone to college. One is completely graduated, one is a senior, and I have a senior in high school who will be looking at how to get to college in September. And a program such as the one that is before you would be very helpful for my 3rd student, making it much more affordable for him to be able to acquire his dreams of a college education and eventually a 4-year degree. However, as it's stated presently, he's ineligible because he's a homeschool graduate. Now, he is very intelligent, he meets all the requirements. He's presently dual enrolled in the Sandhills Community College, taking classes there, and would like to be able to take classes in his own county that he resides in and where we pay our taxpaying money. And so what I'm here before is to ask you to please consider the wording and to make the necessary changes so that all kids and that are graduating in this and who are eligible could have access to these funds. Because as homeschoolers, we support all education, whether you're public school, your private school, or your homeschool, whatever works best for you, we support you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Capehart. Okay, Mr. Van Gross Senior?
I'll pass, you do everything.
Okay. Defer to the earlier comments, okay, all right? That's all the public comments. Thank you very much. Okay. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your thoughts. And at this time, we will move into our old business item A. the request for approval of Lee County Promise Memorandum of Understanding with Central Carolina Community College. You'll find that on, beginning on page 17 of your agenda.
Madam Chair,
Yes, sir.
in my recollection, last year when this was discussed, I don't recall that becoming an issue or even being mentioned in terms of including schools. And for that reason, I automatically amend. I thought it applied to all kids graduating from school. So I'd ask that we go ahead and amend and approve.
Okay.
I think Mr.
Any
Monson
discussion?
discussed that particular point, did you not?
No, when we began this program, we knew that there would be modifications, and I want to salute Lee County for leading the way, because both Harnett and Chatham have come on board enthusiastically, despite their political differences. Both Chatham and Harnett, their commissioners approved this Promise program unanimously, which we were very pleased at. We did take the liberty of modifying and using the language that the Harnett County attorney gave us, and we've given that to Ms. Parrish. If you don't mind, Madam Chair, may I just read the way
Sure,
it
absolutely.
reads in Harnett County?
Sure.
And we certainly, like I said, can modify in any way to suit any county. There are some slight differences between Harnett and Chatham, but that was a commissioner decision. We leave these decisions like that up to you. We are proud to have all of you as our students, and we are enthusiastic about you continuing to come to CCCC. And you, young man, as an engineering student, I mean, wow. I mean, can you just say wow? I mean, and so we would very much like you to continue your program now. You know, we have, with NC State, we have a direct admissions policy that when he finishes his 2-year engineering degree, he will move into NC State without losing a single credit. And we very much want you to complete that program. So if you would bear with me, under the fourth whereas, and this was lifted from Harnett, but I'm reading it like we were proposing it for Lee, and we're going to ask Ms. Parrish to double check before anything goes forward. But it will now say, whereas the Lee County Promise Program, hereafter referred to as the program, guarantees up to 2 years of free in-state tuition and required fees at the college for all eligible Lee County residents who graduate from a public high school, from a private school located within Lee County, or a home school while residing in Lee County in the years 2018, 2019, 2020, and 2021. As I explained to you last year, the college is not asking for a blank forever check. This is a pilot program that will go on for 5 years. 5 years will give us enough data to show you that young men like this young man here are benefiting from the program, and then we would come back to you and ask you to renew. So we're not asking for a blank check. We're asking for a pilot program. But if we were able, with Ms. Parrish's legal approval and your approval, we would submit that before this is actually signed, that we modify this particular contract. And I apologize to you, and particularly to you. We never, ever meant to exclude you. We appreciate you being a student here, and we want you to stay a student here, okay? Going to Sand Hills, please.
Got to get him back up this way. All right. Thank you, Dr. Marchand. Does that language suffice for you, Commissioner
Absolutely.
Reeves? And approved by you?
And they also had it in the student selection criteria requirements. They included it there as well. That'd be a high school graduate from a public or private or qualified homeschool as defined by the statute.
Motion is to make it work.
Okay. Is there any other discussion or comments?
Madam Chair, if I could ask.
Sure.
I know I've had this class before and given this class before, but the duty of our government is to protect life, liberty, and property. Unfortunately, after reviewing the county commissioner's handbook that we got when the School of Government gave us a lesson, we really don't have the ability to grant scholarships. I mean, it's just one of those things, is that within the realm of county government? And I had done an online survey, and I've talked to a large number of people between here and Chatham County, and a lot of people don't see fit to use taxpayer money to make scholarships available when we have a variety of other scholarship opportunities. And Dr. Marchand, I'm sorry, my oldest son is working on a nursing degree at Sandhills, so I apologize. But using him as an example, I was an Army recruiter for 3 years in Northeast Ohio. The beautiful thing about being a recruiter is you get to talk to juniors and seniors and then graduates. You're constantly asking, what's your plans for school? Or what's your plans after high school? And they all say college. 80% of them say college. So we track them down after graduation. And some of you parents have endured this, the recruiters calling on a regular basis. Well, there's a strategy behind that. The funny thing is that 3/4 of the students that start out going to college, intending to go to college, don't complete it. So I saw real fast, real early, and I told our sons and my wife, and we're not going to pay for your school, you're going to earn it, you're going to pay for it yourself. My oldest son is a certified fireman, paramedic through CCCC. And he's working on his nursing degree at Sandhills. Every dime he's paid out of his pocket. And I just want to convey that because the awarding of scholarships, and you look at the requirements here, standards of a 2.0 cumulative grade point average and complete 67% of your work. That's not setting a high standard. So I'm just going to make sure, I'll let you know that's why I'm going to oppose this.
All right, call the question.
I do want to make one statement myself. I homeschooled our 2 youngest children, and that was a blessing for our family. So I want to make clear that this was in no way an exclusion or a way to discriminate. We just simply took a memorandum of understanding, to start with. This is our building foundation. That's why we have the meetings and why we're so appreciative that you come and you speak, and that gives the building blocks for our decisions. That's the way local government's supposed to work. So thank you for coming tonight. And I look forward to great things from your families because homeschooling is very special to me too. As private school is too. I have family members that attend private school in this county as well. So we have the question called. All those in favor of the motion say aye. Aye. Opposed?
No.
Okay, thank you very much. All right. The next item of business will be the consideration of an offer to purchase property located on 2055 Long Point Trail. Ms. Parrish?
Yes, so this was brought to the board on the November 19th regular meeting. This piece of property is located in Carolina Trace. The tax value is $30,000 and what was owed was $3,385. Coast to Coast, Mr. Wayne Langston had submitted an offer of $750. That offer was accepted by the board. We advertised the offer in the Herald, and the 10-day upset bid period expired. No one submitted a sealed upset bid. So it's just, excuse me, it's back on the board for just final approval and authorize the chair to sign all the paperwork to effectuate the transfer.
Okay. Any questions or concerns from Ms. Parrish? Is there a motion? Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, thank you. Item C, consideration of a zoning map amendment request for 3284 Farrell Road. Ms. McNeil? Good evening.
Good evening, commissioners and staff. For the benefit of the new board members, I'm Amy McNeil, the zoning administrator for the Sanford Lee County Community Development Department, and I work with property owners and developers when they officially request a rezoned property to guide them through the process and to ensure that all legal requirements are met. Rezoning requests are legally required to be reviewed by the local planning board, which is an advisory council on matters related to land development and long-range planning, and provides recommendations to the commissioners. This evening, I am presenting the recommendation from the planning board regarding a rezoning request for which the public hearing was held on December 17th. All information relevant to the case should have been presented during the public hearing. The staff report for this rezoning request is included on pages 37 through 45 of your agenda, with a sketch of the overall subdivision design on page 49. There's also an 11 by 17 version of the sketch at each of your seats for your reference. If the rezoning request is approved, the developer will move forward, and the sketch that you have at this time will evolve into an official preliminary major subdivision plat for a residential subdivision that corresponds with the overall design and the minimum 20,000 square foot lot sizes illustrated on the sketch, which will be placed on a future agenda for consideration. If the rezoning request is not approved, the developer will not be allowed to create the 20,000 square foot lots, but may move forward with developing property as currently allowed per the local zoning ordinance or UDO within the existing residential agricultural zoning district. Therefore, you may see a preliminary major subdivision plat for this site in the future with a minimum lot size of 40,000 square feet as currently allowed in the RA zoning district, subject to the suitability of the soils for septic systems. At this time, I will present the Planning Board's recommendation regarding the rezoning request. Regarding the application by Copper Ridge Development LLC to rezone one 30.25 acre tract of land addressed as 3284 Farrell Road from residential agricultural to the Copper Ridge Estates conditional zoning district for the purpose of developing a residential single-family home subdivision for which the public hearing was held on December 17th, the Lee County Planning Board voted to recommend denial of this request by a unanimous vote based on the rationale that neither the former long-range land use plan, the 2020 land use plan, nor the recently adopted long-range plan, the Plan Sam Lee land use plan, support this request. Please be mindful that 2 votes are required by the commissioners for each rezoning request. Vote 1 is to approve a statement on long-range plan consistency as it relates to this rezoning request. The board members may select one of the motion options provided, or they may create their own unique motion when voting that the rezoning request either is or is not consistent with the newly adopted long-range land use plan. And vote number 2 is to approve or deny the rezoning request. The board members may select one of the motions provided, or they may create their own unique motion when voting to either approve or deny the rezoning request. This concludes my presentation, and you may now move forward with voting on this request.
Okay, are there any comments or questions for Ms. McNeil?
So what you're saying is that this perhaps would be approved if these long range, are you saying the long range plans have not been submitted or haven't been met? Can you clarify?
Sure. What I'm saying is that the applicant is requesting to rezone to allow 20,000 square foot lots. At this time, the current zoning district, residential agricultural, allows 40,000 square foot lots. So even if the rezoning request is denied, it's possible you may see a plat in the future for 40,000 square foot lots. There are 2 votes that are required. One of the votes is the request consistent with the adopted land use plan, and the second one is to vote to rezone. Currently, the request is not consistent with the long-range land use plan.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Madam Chair, I make the motion that the request is not consistent with the adopted long-range plan, as the request is to rezone to allow a minimum size, lot size of 20,000 square feet, or over 0.46 of an acre, as opposed to the recommended maximum development density for 1 dwelling unit per 2 acres.
Okay, so this is one of those, so the motion is for the first vote, that are we in agreement that it's not consistent with the land use plan? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Now, vote number 2, to approve or deny the rezoning request. Any questions? Ms. McNeil, clarification or motion?
Madam Chair, I move that I make a motion that the proposed zoning map amendment is reasonable and in the public interest based on the following. The current zoning of residential agriculture allows 40,000 square feet lots or 33 total lots on this site, not taking into consideration the acreage required for roadways or the suitability of the soil for private septic systems. And the developer is proposing to create 24 lots based on the subdivision sketch submitted with the rezoning application. Therefore, I move to approve the request to rezone 130.25 acre tract of land addressed at 3284 Farrell Road from residential agriculture to Copper Ridge Estates Conditional Zoning District for the purpose of developing a residential single-family home subdivision.
Okay, questions or comments?
Madam Chair, I don't, if you made the motion that it's inconsistent with the long-range plan, I don't know, normally if it's inconsistent denial or consistent approval, so I would have to look into see if you could be inconsistent and then still approve. I don't know, I don't know if Marshall knows offhand, or if I'd have to.
Good
Good
evening.
evening. You are correct. If you are, the reason the statute is the way it is that you all are supposed to make a determination if it's consistent with your plan. So if you find it's inconsistent with your plan, you are not supposed to then approve the rezoning. By default, you should be looking at denying the request.
Okay. Okay, there's, do you still want to keep your motion on the floor, Commissioner Smith?
Was I under the understanding that the intent is to subdivide from 40,000 to 20,000? And we overturned that recommendation? Or we supported the planning board's recommendation?
Yes, your first motion, if I understand it, was to recommend that it was inconsistent with the plan, which is the same recommendation that the planning board made. So they basically felt that it was inconsistent with both the 2020 land use plan and the recently adopted plan San Lee. So yes, to answer that specific question, the 20,000 square foot lot is certainly different than the countryside residential as proposed in the new plan. So carrying that thought through, yes, it would be inconsistent with the current adopted land use plan, which is the original motion I think you made on the first vote. I'll pause there if there's
Okay.
further questions.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor.
Did he withdraw or what?
I'll withdraw the motion.
Okay, okay. So is there another motion?
Move to deny.
Okay. Any more questions, comments?
I mean, if we deny at this point, these folks will be able to come, have another opportunity before the planning board to.
Yes.
They always have an opportunity to get in compliance.
Yes.
I mean, that's the
Yes.
whole point here.
Yes.
And it's up to the individual developers to go back and negotiate.
I think bring Marshall up here, because what's you're considering right now is a change to the 40,000 square foot requirement.
Yeah.
Now they could come back in a use by right, as I understand it, and bring a plat to the planning staff for 40,000 square foot lots,
Right.
which would not come back to you.
Yes, it would.
Oh, it would.
Yeah.
Okay.
So let me describe that very quickly.
Excuse me.
So if you deny this, essentially it will stay residential agricultural. As a manager indicated, this is a by right. So what will happen is they will submit a preliminary plat, which is a technical review. It's different than a legislative act that you're under now. Essentially what that means is you would simply be looking at the design, not the density, not the size of lots, those kind of things. So they will be bringing that to your planning board first, but eventually that will come back to you for final approval of just the plat. But at that point, the size of the lots, the density and things like that are not on the table. That's already set.
So to be in compliance, we can always look at the long-range plan to see if we want to make changes to that.
Yes, you always can. That's correct.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor?
And that's for option 2 with the facts, correct? Okay.
Yes.
Yes. Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Getting adjusted to our plans. Okay, under new business, we just have the one item remaining, and that's item B, request for the Sanford Lee County Regional Airport Authority to access funds from the Airport Reserve Fund for capital project improvements at the airport. Mr. Crumpton?
Yes, ma'am. The Airport Authority is requesting $218,000 from the Airport Reserve Fund for use at the terminal building and for a grant or for a match on some other work that's being done out there with driveways and the elevator cost as well. So on June 30th, 2018, the Airport Reserve Fund balance was $254,783. The tax base this year for the airport is around $30 million. So we're expecting at least $225,000 of new revenue to come in this year. So in the current budget, we allocated $100,000 from the fund, which leaves well over $300,000 in the fund. So there's plenty of money to grant the request. The chairman of the Airport Authority, Carter Keller, is here. We'll be happy to answer any questions. And as a point of order, I need to make sure that the board is aware that I serve on the Airport Authority and did vote in favor of this request.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Mr. Keller, you want to address?
Good evening.
Good evening. Good.
Move to approve.
Okay, what's the status of the terminal right now, just for?
It's
information?
steel is going up.
Okay,
and,
good.
Poured concrete and set for, I think, a September opening.
Okay, that was my question, just need to make sure we kind of block that off on our calendar.
Do you have the weather has not been kind.
The weather's been a little difficult.
Believe me, I understand.
Do you have a contracted date for the elevator? I
We
was
have-
at the Sand Hill Center on Friday, and the biggest problem they had was getting an elevator to upgrade an emergency system or facility they're putting in Ashburn.
Their elevator companies are few and far
Yes.
between and very difficult to deal with. So we do have a bid for that work, but we do not have a signed contract for that work.
Okay, okay, we've got a motion on the floor. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. September will be here before. Be a good thing. Be a good thing. Okay. Oh, thank you. Manager's comments?
Yes, ma'am. I gave a report at the public policy luncheon today, so I probably should go over a few of the items that I mentioned to them today, since it was essentially a public meeting. Want to remind the board that we do not meet on Monday, the 21st. That is Martin Luther King Day. We are meeting on Tuesday, the 22nd. Our board retreat is set for the evening of January 31st and for the day on February 1st. The library has changed the branch hours in Broadway. It's still open for 20 hours a week, but they closed a little bit early because of daylight issues. So if you want to see the exact hours, you can get on the website and check that out. Today was the last day at 5 o'clock to pay your taxes. If you have not paid your taxes or have them postmarked by 5 p.m., penalty and interest starts to accrue at this point. We are in the middle of the listing period for personal property, so the deadline for that is January 31st. Property tax reevaluation notices will be going out in February. So as I told the group today, when you get that mail from us, you need to open it immediately and you need to review it. We have lots of folks that put that aside because they think it's a bill, and they open it late and they miss the opportunity to come meet with staff or the Board of E&R to discuss their value. So please open that and review that immediately. The Lee County Government Senior Services is seeking nominations for the 2019 Governor's Volunteer Service Award. If you know a person, business, group, team that have contributed to our community over the past year through volunteering their time, services, or resources, please consider nominating them for the Governor's Volunteer Service Award. You can contact the Enrichment Center or go to leecountync.gov and review our news release. The deadline for those is January 11th. I did want to update the board on some of the federal shutdown issues. As the chair and I have discussed, the local Farm Service Agency, or USDA, out at McSwain Center closed before Christmas. And there have been several people who've been seeking services out there and have been turned away. So just to let you know that. Most services in the health department and the DSS department and senior services are up and running. The only issues I've heard of so far is in food stamps, where some of the EBT cards are not working. So, and we do not control that. We can look into it for residents who are on food stamps, but we cannot, change that or do anything like that. So, it's still up to the federal government. So that's really the big issue. Colts, we get federal funding there, and funding there works a little bit different. It kind of works in arrears. So Colts is funded through the year. The Veterans Office is not affected. Veteran services are still being provided by the federal government. So if you need to go see John Sandrock and have issues with your VA participation and availability, he can help you with that. So, most of the fundings in DSS and health have funds to get through January. So as long as the shutdown is settled before the end of the month, the only issues we see right now is really with the food stamps. So hopefully they'll get that worked out before the 31st, and other programs will not be impacted.
They got food stamp and possibly the WIC program.
WIC is funded. Did Mr. Kane leave?
Yes, I believe they're funded.
WIC is funded through May 31st.
Okay. Good.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
That's my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Commissioner comments? Commissioner Smith?
Just on the reevaluation, I know they all came out, but since my pastures turned into swampland and my front yard swampland, does that reduce the value of my property?
No, it increased it because now you're waterfront.
No other comments, thank you.
I know, we're all starting to look like water.
Good shot, but
Commissioner Kenneth.
I just hope everybody had a safe Christmas and a good New Year. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Commissioner Dodson?
Appreciate everybody coming out, especially you folks that came forward, because when you guys came forward to present, I got to thinking about at our retreat. I'm like, uh-oh. I mean, I was for this, but I couldn't remember if we talked about that or not. And I'm so thankful that you folks came forward, and especially you, young man. That was a very admirable thing that you did. I'm sure your parents are very proud of you.
Commissioner Del Plaza?
Always proud to see fellow homeschoolers. Happy New Year.
Commissioner Reeves?
Happy New Year to everyone, and thank you for coming out. But I want to address we have some openings on the, Board of Equalization. We got quite a few positions that are vacant. One of the things I noticed in some of the applications is that we've got quite a few from one area. And we've got 4 districts and 3 at-large seats. We ought to have at least 7 as a variety, at least 4, and not concentrate on one area. I see a real problem with some of the applicants' locations at this point. And if we have to, we need to go ahead and re-advertise or advertise for more people.
Just encourage people to apply.
Yeah.
And other boards as well. Is that all?
That's it.
Okay. Just 2 quick things. One is we unfortunately over Christmas lost more citizens to drug overdoses in this county. And we really need to get back to working hard on that issue, I think. And this board needs to lead the way. I can't think of a better thing for us to do starting the new year than to kind of rededicate ourselves to that effort. Too many lives lost to that. And secondly, for those of you, and I know staff, but I see other citizens that are here that frequent our meetings. Just before Christmas, one of our county citizens, Ms. Terica Luxton, passed away. And whether you agreed with her stand or not on environmental issues, she attended these meetings, she did research, she engaged other citizens, and she never let us off the hook. She definitely understood the power and the privilege of the local government system that we have in this country. So we lost her just before Christmas, and just condolences to her family. She was very much a passionate Lee County citizen and just wanted the best for everybody in this county. So we're going to miss her. And with that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Thank you very much. Everybody be safe.
The Tigers?
What?